Life throws us unexpected twists and turns, and my story is no exception. When I found out that my wife was cheating on me with an artist, I sank into an abyss of rage and frustration. But my revenge turned out to be far more terrible than she could have imagined. This is a true story of betrayal, revenge, and its terrible consequences. When I got home, my wife was still gone. I looked at the clock. It was almost 10 p.m. I wondered where she was. Nadesha had been coming home late lately. She'd be at a friend's house or at work. I didn't pay much attention to it. I didn't know what could happen. But today I thought about it for some reason. Maybe after there was no food in the fridge. Nadesha stopped cooking for a couple months now, but I always found something to eat. But today, nothing at all. A car rumbled under the window. The door slammed. My wife's here. It's late today. And sure enough, a few minutes later, the front door lock clicked. In silence. Usually Nadesha loudly announced her arrival, but today there was silence. The wife came into the kitchen without taking off her shoes. Hi. There's nothing at home. Why don't we go to the cafe for dinner? I said in a peaceful voice. I didn't want to blame Nadesha for not cooking dinner. Let's give ourselves a little holiday. I went to my wife and hugged her. Zatalia. We haven't had a vacation together for so long. I tried to kiss her, but she pulled away. Yura, we need to talk. Her tone did not bode well, and I noticed that she was avoiding my gaze. I thought something was wrong. In a premonition of some as yet unclear calamity, my heart thumped rapidly. What's wrong? There's trouble at work. My wife sat down on the stool, still hiding her eyes. Yura, I'm leaving you. I asked. Let's do without scandal and clarification of relations. I've fallen in love with someone else, and I want to be with him. You've been a good husband and father all this time. It's not about you. It's just the way life is. A man should be happy. Nadesha looked at me with a guilty look. I'm sorry, but I can't go on like this. The surprise made me speechless for a while. I looked in front of me, trying to focus my eyes. My heart had fallen into my stomach and was cowering there, struggling to keep a steady beat. Nadesha, what about me? The children? In a voice that wasn't my own, I sneered. What children? Suddenly, she said angrily, the children are adults. I'll explain everything to them later. They will understand me. For almost 40 years, I've been a housekeeper, a laundress, a nanny. And for everyone, and for you in the first place. I stopped being a woman, forgot that I could be loved too. And I want to love and be loved. Nadesha, my love was not enough for you. I said quietly, don't be her kin. I met a man and fell in love with him. Right now I'm leaving to him. Nadesha stood up. Wait, I looked at my wife. How long have you two been dating? 6 months now. But it can't go on like this. I was tired of lying to you and him. And I finally made a decision. It's better, more honest at least. Nadesha pulled a pack from her purse and took out a thin cigarette. This is the news. My wife smokes. Who's your new man? I tried to keep my emotions in a fist. He's an artist. Very talented. Nadesha flicked her lighter and looked at me. Not that. She didn't finish. But her eloquent look told me a lot. Strangely, she never cared what I did. My writing she thought of as grapple mania and child's play. Meaningless nonsense. The only thing that matters is what makes money. Many women, if not all, would have signed on to that proposition. I caught myself thinking about some nonsense. My wife, with whom I have 2 children, with whom I have lived for almost 40 years, is leaving me. And I'm thinking about whether I have talent. Is that bullshit? Yes, and another thing. Nadesha continued. I want this apartment and half the money from our joint account. I have to live on something and support a young lover. I thought, and I said out loud, and the fact that my parents left me the apartment, it's okay. But you still have a house in the country. I waved my hand. I didn't have the energy to deal with the division of property. Nadesha, you're an adult and you've made your decision. But I want you to know this. If you leave, there's no going back. The plasma was at my throat. I held on with all my might to keep from crying. Don't be fooled. It'll never happen, she said coldly and haughtily, picked up her bag and walked out of the kitchen. The front door slammed. I looked out the window and saw her get into the car. There was a silhouette looming in the passenger seat. Nadesha leaned toward him, and it was clear to me that they were kissing. It seemed to me that Nadesha was aware that I could see them, and was doing it on purpose to make me feel even more painful. A few minutes later, the car drove away. By the standards of the time, I got married quite early at the age of 20. In my 4th year at the Institute of Mechanical Engineering, Nadesha was 1 year younger than me, an excellent age difference for creating a strong family. In the first year of our life together, we had a son, and 9 years later, a daughter. Immediately after the institute, I went to the army as a 2-year officer. They're paid a good salary, so Nadesha did not work and gave all her time to her son and daughter. My service went well, and I stayed on to serve in the army. I graduated from the academy and had excellent career prospects ahead of me, but the troubled times began. The Soviet Union was Genized, and I was sent on long business trips to hot spots. On one of these business trips, I was severely wounded in the head. By that time, I was already the chief of division intelligence. I was hospitalized for 4 months, until finally I was sent to the VVK to solve the issue of fitness for further service. They crumpled, felt, shone, and knocked for a long time. Finally, they came to a sad conclusion: not fit for further service. For all the good, they gave me an order, a pension certificate, and a pension for the wounded. My superiors shook my hand, wished me good luck, and safely forgot about me. And without pensioners, there's plenty to do. There are so many generals, and generals has multiplied. Try to feed them. I received the documents and prescriptions and went home safely. And sometime later, the Soviet Union collapsed. All this time, Natasha was by my side, supporting me as best she could. And I could really see that she loved me. She really loved me. Waking up at night in the ward, I saw her, tired for the day, curled up on the couch, sleeping next to my bed. And now, Natasha, what have you done? After leaving the army, I went to work in my first specialty at a large metallurgical plant. 7 years later, I became chief engineer. So I had no problems with money, and I don't have any now. 55, I retired. Unexpectedly, I began to write. It's true, mostly in the desk. So probably, all this would have continued until Envornes in the magazine did not print my story. Sometime later, I got a call from Moscow, and was offered to write a screenplay based on this story. A year later, the movie came out. My name was in the credits, and it went on and on. Soon the first collection of stories came out, then another. Finally, a solid Moscow publishing house signed a contract with me, and I began to receive solid royalties. For what no one wanted to read before, fate plays man, and man plays the trumpet. All this time, I had no reason to reproach Natasha for anything. At least not once did the thought arise that she was unfaithful to me. The children are grown up now. They both had their own families, grandchildren. We lived well, at least I thought so. Throughout our marriage, I never once raised my voice at her. I never refused her anything. I took pleasure in giving her gifts. She had a dream of driving, so I bought her a car with my first fee. I loved her very much. I had no problems with her intimately either. Then I bought an old log house in the country near the forest on the shore of the lake, and was going to live in it the rest of the days with the woman I love. Natasha managed to preserve her natural beauty practically without resorting to the tricks of cosmetologists. I was terribly pleased to catch the envious glances of men and women when I was near her. I was proud that my favorite woman looked so attractive. So proud, asshole. They say women live by emotion, not reason. When she says she loves you, don't doubt it. It's true. She really loves you. In that moment. But that doesn't mean at all that she will love you tomorrow. Only naive idiots like me don't realize that. The relationship between a man and a woman is finite. Looks like my time is up and it's the other one's turn. Women's logic is a strange thing. I think women themselves are sometimes unable to fully comprehend it. I stared at the dark square of the window for a long time, as if I wanted to see my fate there. What was there to see? With my wife gone, my soul was empty. There was only half of me left. You have to fall in love to leave your husband of 40 years without hesitation. I don't even know when you were sincere, when you nursed me back to health, or now when you ruthlessly, without hesitation, left me for someone else. In the morning, I packed my things and called Natasha. I held the phone for a long time until I heard her sleepy voice. I vacated the apartment. How do I hand over the keys? I wanted to end the conversation quickly. For some reason, I didn't feel comfortable talking to her. That fast, she stretched out, drop it in the mailbox. You didn't have to be in such a hurry. You could have done more. I didn't listen and I passed out. She's thoughtful. She's a thing of the past for me. And the past, as you know, doesn't count. Autumn crept up unnoticed. Our divorce went quickly and smoothly. We had no property claims against each other. The children are adults. Therefore, in SKSYA we, without unnecessary conversations, put in our passport stamps on the dissolution of marriage and issued the appropriate certificates. That's it. We are no longer husband and wife. Strangers to each other. Each with his own private life. As we parted, I saw regret in Natasha's eyes. Or maybe I just imagined it. I nodded, now ex-wife, put my hands in my pockets, turned and walked away along the sidewalk strewn with yellow leaves. Her fate did not concern me anymore. I had a lot of urgent things to do. The publishing house was preparing to release my new book, and sent me the layout of the edition for author's editing. Called from the movie studio about the script of my story. Everyone wanted to get everything at once. On top of that, the editor of the magazine in which I sent the story almost 2 years ago came out with a complaint against me. They kept quiet all this time and finally decided to publish it. But it turned out that another publication had printed the story by then. It got to the point where they threatened to sue me, but I hadn't signed any contract with them. So with a clear conscience, I sent them to the place they often write about on fences. All this time I lived in a hotel, dreaming of leaving the city where everything reminded me of my past life. I didn't know where Natasha was or what she was doing. I heard vague rumors that not everything was going well in her new family life. What do you want? A young lover requires special treatment. And as I understood it, the main element in the relationship between a 60-year-old young woman and a 40-year-old promising artist was money and real estate. My ex-wife's money and real estate. All the stuff she took after the divorce. Their unearthly passion would last forever. Until she ran out of money. I knew exactly what they called an artist like that. The only bad thing was that Natasha, from the butterflies fluttering before her eyes, didn't see it. Or maybe she didn't want to see it. A one-day woman. A woman's summer is so short. I once met her with a bow at the supermarket. A middle-aged guy with a disgruntled look on his face. He had a look of contempt for the world around him. He seemed to be doing people a favor by breathing the same air as them. At some point they began to kiss, and I had the impression that Natasha was the only one kissing. Her companion allowed himself to be kissed. But this chicken in love didn't notice anything around her. To be honest, I felt sorry for her. A good woman chasing after a phantom love. But the love stupefaction sooner or later passes, and the subsequent hangover syndrome to withstand not everyone can. All our mutual friends and girlfriends were shocked. I several times tried to call me to a frank conversation, but I under plausible pretexts cleverly avoided soul-sleeping conversations. Children took to the breakup of parents indifferent. My son came to see me shortly after our divorce. We talked to him for a long time about various trifles, but he never dared to ask me about his relationship with his mother. I knew that they communicate with Natasha. Do not limit her communication with her grandchildren. But they categorically forbade me to bring her new husband to these meetings. In early October, I went away for 2 weeks filming a TV series based on my story. It was the first time I had attended such an event. Everything was new to me. To live for 2 weeks surrounded by artists whose faces I had only seen on screen before. To be on an equal footing with them, to take part in rehearsals, even to advise them on filming. Time flew by. After returning from filming, I called my lawyer and asked to come. I was referring to being busy, but he was very insistent. Yuri Ivanovich, your ex-wife put the apartment for sale. The lawyer looked at me carefully, twirling his glasses with his fingers. Your apartment? And where will she live? I didn't understand. In her lover's studio? I don't know that. What I do know is that her beau owes a very substantial sum of money to some serious people, and your ex-wife is trying to cover the debt by selling her place. Yeah, love is blinding. I wonder if they've already spent the money or not. Probably, since they're talking about selling the apartment. Can't Natasha see who she's messing with? I thanked the lawyer for the information and explained that now this case did not concern me. After all, she wanted this life for herself, so let her drink it with a spoon. After drinking the cup of coffee, I bowed out. 2 days after the meeting with the lawyer, I got the news that the apartment had been sold, and I lost sight of Natasha again. The files and papers piled up more and more. And at one point I realized that helpless I could not cope with this avalanche. But where to find a suitable candidate? I did not think long and gave an ad in an advertising newspaper, specifying only a contact phone number. Out of several candidates, I stopped at a young woman who graduated from the Faculty of Philology, excellent command of several foreign languages, and most importantly, a computer. Jeannie was a professional typist, typing so fast with all her fingers that my eyes were tired of watching this process. She edited the text of my O-pieces, quickly responded to letters and requests. She kept a record of the events I was to attend. I rented a bureau for her and sent all the finished material to her email account. I had given up on my love life. No more women, just work. Moreover, my old devotee did not leave me any chance for a little success among gender partners. But since then, I've noticed that Jeannie's attitude towards me has changed. She seemed to be seriously interested in me. I could see it in everything. She started showing up more and more often at the hotel room where I worked. In the mornings, she would stop by to check on some minor details, treating me to organic coffee and homemade pastries. She didn't hurry, didn't impose her society on me, didn't bother me with conversations, but I felt that I was more and more sucked into the mire and was drawn to her. That fall evening, I arrived at the hotel quite late. After long negotiations in the publishing house, and then a tedious protocol dinner in a restaurant, fatigue came over my shoulders. All I wanted to do was to get to my room, fall on my bed, and fall asleep. I went up to my floor and was surprised to find that my room was unlocked. Only my assistant had a key besides me. Could something have happened that she had come to see me at such a late hour? I cautiously entered the room, threw off my shoes, and walked to my desk. The door creaked behind me. Jean came out of the bedroom. Behind her on the bedside table, I saw an open bottle of champagne fruit sandwiches. What's the party in honor of? Jean silently took my hand and led me to the bedroom door. From the surprise, I lost the ability to resist. And it happened. There was no disappointment. I felt like I was the captain of a frigate that had entered a quiet harbor after terrible storms and bloody battles. When the naked young woman thrilled with sensual pleasure in my arms, responding to my kiss, then timidly, then passionately, in Jean's embrace, submissive and yet commanding, I suddenly realized what they call true love, the merging of souls and the beating of hearts, not just the closeness of bodies and the intertwining of legs. The phone call snapped me out of the hotbed of sleep. I lay awake for a while, but the phone kept ringing and ringing. I searched the bedside table with my hand and finally pressed the green button. Hello, who's this? Hello, you have a call from the city's emergency hospital. Your wife was brought in an hour ago in a very serious condition. You can come over now.